You're fired!
Pro wrestlers train for months and then sometimes toil for years before getting a chance to perform on TV. And then it can all go away in an instant, either through injury or a big mistake. These wrestlers did the latter. As Alundra Blayze, Deborah Maselli had a successful run in the then WWF's women's division. In December 1995, Blayze departed the company to return to WCW, where she worked under the name Medusa. Maselli appeared on Monday Nitro with the WWF Women's Championship in hand. She proceeded to dump the title in the trash on national broadcast television, a major faux pas in the wrestling business. It offended WWE's top brass so much that she didn't reappear in the company for almost 20 years until she was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2015. Speaking to WWE.com, Maselli explained why she chucked the title in the trash, saying, "Well, I was under contract and former WCW president Eric Bischoff told me to do it. It was either that or I was out the door." She added that she was dubbed a disgrace to the business because of the stunt. Bischoff disputed Maselli's version of the events on his podcast, 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, saying it was her idea in the first place. He contended, "Oh yeah, she is not opposed at all to making money off of it, but she wants to put the heat on me because she doesn't remember anything the way it actually happened. She is delusional."
Eric and I go back and forth about who called who. You know, I say he called me, he says I called him.
When Leon White, also known as Vader, debuted in the then WWF in 1996, the expectation was high for the monster to make some serious moves in the company. As a former WCW champion and certified mega hit in Japan, many expected the big man to slot right into the main event scene. That's how the Mastodon was presented at first, even scoring a pinfall victory over WWF champion Shawn Michaels in a three-man tag match at In Your House 9 International Incident. The following month at SummerSlam, Michaels and Vader had their title match. Unfortunately, the bout didn't go according to plan, leaving a visibly irritated Michaels screaming at Vader for failing to move after HBK went for the elbow drop. After the match, Michaels reportedly approached Vince McMahon and stated he didn't want to work with Vader anymore, which impacted the plans for Survivor Series, where Vader was scheduled to win the title. Instead, it was Psycho Sid who beat Michaels for the gold. After the disastrous SummerSlam match, Vader's stock within the promotion plummeted, resulting in him being released in 1998 without ever having won a championship in the WWF. Alberto Del Rio had several runs as a top star in WWE during his first stint in the company. On August 7, 2014, WWE announced it had terminated Del Rio's contract due to unprofessional conduct and an altercation with an employee. According to the Wrestling Observer, the incident happened after a WWE social media manager made a racist joke about Del Rio washing dishes. When Del Rio confronted the person about his comments, he didn't apologize, so Del Rio slapped him. Many people backed Del Rio for his actions, considering the joke to be highly offensive. Del Rio returned to the WWE a year later. However, his position in the company had fallen dramatically. After being suspended for a wellness policy violation in August 2016, Del Rio and the WWE parted ways a month later. According to the Wrestling Observer, Del Rio reportedly felt several of the WWE's promises had not materialized, including a purported main event push for him. In 2017, Del Rio posted on Periscope suggesting that the WWE was racist. All these factors, along with the numerous legal accusations in the ensuing years, ensured that Del Rio is persona non grata in the company. Daniel Puder was a tough enough contestant with MMA experience, so there was an opportunity to present him as a legitimate shoot fighter like Ken Shamrock. On a 2004 episode of SmackDown, Kurt Angle challenged tough enough competitors to lock up with him in an amateur wrestling contest. The Olympic gold medalist defeated Chris Naraki before Puder stepped up. Puder caught Angle in a legitimate Kimura lock, which threatened to break Angle's arm. The ref was forced to count a quick pinfall victory for Angle, even though it's disputed whether Puder's shoulders were on the mat for the whole 3 count. Discussing what happened on the unscripted podcast, Puder said of Angle,
I think he's a little bit of a punk.
Puder added that he thought Angle was bitter that he outperformed him. Puder insisted he followed the rules laid out and simply got the best of Angle, who refused to shake his hand afterwards. Speaking with the Hannibal TV, Angle contended that Puder had, in fact, pinned himself, adding that he likes Puder and believed they got along. In a separate interview with the Bubba Army, Angle said that Puder had gotten too big for his boots, so that's why he received a beatdown from Chris Benoit, Hardcore Holly, and Eddie Guerrero at the 2005 Royal Rumble, which proved to be the end of his WWE career. After Jaxson Ryker's stint in TNA as Gunner, his jump to the WWE brought some attention. Blessed with an impressive physique, Ryker appeared to be on the rise. After spending time in NXT as part of the Forgotten Sons with Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler, the team eventually made their debut on the main roster on an April 2020 episode of SmackDown. The Forgotten Sons seemed to be in line for a major push in the tag division. But in June 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, Ryker included his team's catchphrase, "Forgotten No More," in a tweet showing support for then-President Donald Trump. Many of Ryker's co-workers, including Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Mustafa Ali, and Ricochet, criticized Ryker's tweet for mixing his real-life politics with his TV character. Ryker's stablemates distanced themselves from his comments, but the heat was already there, and the team's push came to a grinding halt, Fightful notes. Ryker was removed from the Forgotten Sons and was released in November 2021. In May 2022, Ryker found himself in the news once again when he tweeted to his followers, "Rise up against abortion, against homosexuality, against gender agenda." In 2006, Rob Van Dam was red hot in the WWE and became one of the top superstars. First, he captured the WWE Championship from John Cena at One Night Stand. Then he was awarded the reinstated ECW Championship when the brand made a return to television. He was flying high, but in July 2006, RVD was stopped for speeding and arrested for drug possession.
I didn't think they were going to find out, but by the time we got to the arena, everybody already knew. It was on every form of media.
The WWE's wellness policy indicated it could have terminated RVD's contract immediately for the transgression, but he was suspended for 30 days instead. He was forced to drop both titles. Speaking on the Icons episode about RVD, Vince McMahon himself said, "I was personally upset over Rob's actions because I thought he was above that. Obviously, when something like that happens, we have to be concerned about how the company looks, and Rob was not champion much longer." RVD continued to perform for the company for another year, and he returned several times thereafter, but he never reached those championship heights again. Austin Aries has attracted plenty of controversy over the years, but what he did at Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory in 2018 seems to have been the final straw. After Johnny Impact defeated him for the Impact World Championship, Aries hopped up, no-selling Impact Starship Pain finisher and walked towards the back while mouthing off at Executive Vice President Don Callis. Even his opponent looked confused by what had just gone down. The wrestling world was stunned, deeming it highly unprofessional of someone who was supposed to be the face of the company. There were rumors that Aries wrestled the match with a concussion. Bound for Glory was the official last date on his contract, and he didn't re-sign with Impact. Aries has worked short stints in MLW, NWA, and some indie promotions since then. From the moment he arrived in WWE, Mr. Kennedy had all the makings of a star. He could talk, had a good look, and a decent in-ring style. WWE pushed him with some major storylines, yet he made a few grave mistakes that attracted the wrong kind of heat. First off, the Sportster notes that Randy Orton complained to Vince McMahon that Kennedy was unsafe in the ring after a match. To make matters worse, Kennedy tried to get the crowd to turn on the biggest superstar in the company, John Cena. It didn't work. Then came the steroid scandal. Kennedy's name appeared on a list of clients of a pharmacy that had been raided by the police for distributing the drug. A major steroid trial had almost destroyed McMahon years earlier, so it was especially bad news for Kennedy, who was suspended. When he returned, his career was never the same. In 2010, Kennedy told Fan House that Cena and Orton's complaints about him all but buried him. He told Chris Van Vliet of his firing,
"I didn't necessarily agree with it at the time, and I don't necessarily agree with it now, but
He takes some ownership for it, though.
From 2012 to 2015, Brad Maddox largely performed as an on-screen authority figure. He was a referee, then general manager for Raw. He sometimes got the opportunity to wrestle in dark matches or on house shows, and his comments during one of these events all but ended his pro wrestling career. Speaking to Rolling Stone, Maddox revealed he was fired for what he called the audience members during a promo. He said, "I had a dark match in Indianapolis, and I called the Indianapolis crowd pricks. I didn't think anything of it. That's never been a bad word to me. I didn't think it was inappropriate. Vince McMahon was watching and did not like it. Juventud Guerrera had a very memorable run in WCW and was on his way up in WWE. His high-flying moves got the audience on their feet, but on one occasion, he took it too far. According to the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter, Juvi's match against Kid Cash for the Cruiserweight Championship on a January 2006 episode of SmackDown proved to be his last. Juvi was accused of sandbagging Cash, wrestling stiff, and trying to get in all of his offense in the loss. Reportedly, there had already been heat on Juvi for his backstage attitude, and the match was proof enough of his supposed unprofessionalism. He was released from his contract and never had another match in WWE, though he did appear in AEW for a match in 2021. The number one rule in pro wrestling is to protect your opponent. Accidents happen, but any intentional harm to a fellow wrestler is an absolute no-no. Hence the severe industry backlash against Mexican wrestler Sexy Star after AAA's Triple Mania 25. Sexy Star locked in an armbar that forced her opponent Rosemary to submit. Despite winning the match, Sexy Star refused to let go of the move, injuring Rosemary in the process. Sexy Star tweeted that she was unapologetic and didn't deliberately injure Rosemary, even questioning the legitimacy of the injury. Numerous figures spoke out and suggested Sexy Star be blacklisted, including Cody Rhodes, who tweeted, "Sexy Star will never set foot in one of my locker rooms. I hope others follow suit." After the incident, Sexy Star shifted from wrestling to boxing and MMA. At one time, Tessa Blanchard was thought to be the fastest rising star in women's wrestling. But she's also something of a heat magnet, and the controversy has seemingly irreparably damaged her career. In January 2020, Blanchard faced allegations of locker room racism and bullying, which she denied. The day after Forbes reported about the allegations, she won the Impact World Championship at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view, becoming the first woman in history to win the title. But during the shutdowns of the COVID-19 pandemic, Blanchard only rarely appeared on Impact TV, despite being the champion.
The Impact World Champion Tessa Blanchard is still not in the building tonight.
She was scheduled to defend her title at the Slammiversary pay-per-view in July 2020, but PW Insider reports that she didn't send Impact her promos for a taped segment to build the match. In the end, Impact lost faith and requested for her to drop the title, but they weren't able to come to terms. The company terminated her contract in June 2020. WWE and AEW have shown little interest in signing Blanchard, and an attempted comeback with WOW Wrestling didn't even get out of the gate. She reportedly had a falling out that resulted in her leaving the promotion before its relaunch.